What's going on, guys? It's John Davis from Laughlin Highlands Farm coming at you today from the workshop because it's gross outside. I'm not even going to show it to you because it's disgusting. I'm going to be out in it all weekend. I want to be warm for at least like a little bit more time, so I'm in the workshop doing what does Wrangler Star call it? Low effort content? Whatever. That's what I'm doing. But today is show and tell. I want to show you some cool stuff that I found on the farm, as well as some cool stuff here in the workshop that I use. Things that, as the great James May said, give me the fizz. People seem to like these videos, so I like putting them together. So stick around because I'm going to show you some awesome stuff. I promise it'll be cool. The property that we live on now, we are the fourth generation of my family to live on it, but there's been people all over this property for years. And I couldn't find any. I need to go find some. When my grandfather used to plow the field, I guess that would be the south field that we now call walnut pasture, they would find Indian arrowheads all of the time when they'd plow up the ground. And there is a whole bunch of information and historical tales out there about Indian activity in this area. This was a pretty hot area from an indigenous population standpoint. So people have been around here for a long time. When I'm out working on the farm, I find stuff that maybe not the Indians left behind, but my grandparents and great-grandparents and who else knows have left behind. And I always wonder about it. Some of it's really a mystery, right? So I wonder what's going on with it. The first thing I've found, which hopefully that focuses in, I was down when we were taking down a building that we called the machine shed that my grandfather built, over Thanksgiving back in the 70s. It was like a lean-to building that he stored equipment in, hence the machine shed. And we took that building down because it had run its lifespan, and we put up a metal structure in its place, and we had to do some excavation and move dirt, as you always do. I found this thing sitting in the dirt. It is I'll show it again. It's an Ohio chauffeur metal from 1942. I looked online, which I used ChatGPT and Grok to find what information I could. Another use of AI, like the video that I put together. And from what I can tell, these were this is made of aluminum, and it's actually a pretty heavy gauge. Like, it doesn't bend when I press on it. These were tokens that it was like $1, maybe 40 cents for them back in 1942, because, inflation. But these were given to people that, I've heard it two ways, that either drove commercially, so maybe grandpa or great-grandpa had one because they were driving truck for farm activities, or maybe driving truck for other people, or for actual chauffeurs where they're chauffeuring people. How do you spell that again? How's that song go? Where they're actually chauffeuring people, maybe for church or people around the community, or, I don't know. Great-grandpa Pap, as they called him, always had a car as early as, they could get one and they could afford it. And back in the 40s, especially the early 40s, in this area, because we're so rural, having a car wasn't necessarily a given, from what I understand. So maybe he was chauffeuring people around. I don't know why he would have gotten a license for it. How do I put this? The presence of the law and taxation down in this way maybe was not what it is now. But, they always tried to do right by what they did. So I don't know. I really don't know what this is. But I found it in the dirt right outside of the machine shed. It probably fell out of somebody's pocket or fell out of their vehicle. Or maybe it was somebody that came to the farm to visit and they dropped it. But I don't know what it is. If anybody knows anything about these, it's a cool little piece of Americana that I found just sitting in the dirt that I thought was pretty darn cool. Number 2 is a hewing axe. This is cool, and when I found this, it was buried in that same spot in the machine shed, buried in the ground, and there's a maker's mark on it, as I don't know if the camera can make that out there. There's a maker's mark on it, and this was all covered in rust. Maybe one of the sins that I did is I tried to mechanically remove the rust by grinding on it, which maybe I shouldn't have done in retrospect, but golly, it was in pretty bad shape. The heel of it was all, mushroomed out because it had been misused to pound on something metal. The wall's pretty thin down in the throat area here. But either way, I don't know what the age of this thing is. So a hewing axe, when I first found it, I didn't really know anything about this. Can you see how it's bent? The reason it's bent is because you would be laying it flat, and imagine you have a hand-hewn beam Let's see if I can find a piece of wood here. There we go. So imagine you had a beam or a tree trunk that you were hewing into a beam. If you think of an old school hand-hewed beam where they have kind of those chop marks kind of going along it, that is from a hewing axe. So they would get these flat by chopping along it and chopping off bits of the beam until they got it flat. The reason it's angled, now that you can see it's laying on a board, is that when you have your handle coming out of it, your hand is a little bit, it's like why a wrench is angled. Your hand is a little bit off the beam, so you're not whacking your knuckles against the beam as you're trying to hew it. This is cool. My, oh gosh, great-great-grandfather bought the property from the McGafficks, and there's a good solid chance that Mr. McGaffick was a Revolutionary War veteran, as that would have put him back in the time when land grants were being given by the newly formed American government to Revolutionary War veterans because, you know, the government had no money. So either Mr. McGaffick, I can't seem to find information, or the man who preceded him, one of them was likely a Revolutionary War veteran, and the original barn that was on the property that my mom grew up with and my dad would have known, the original barn on the property was all hand-hewn from white oak and chestnut and all the native species that would have been on the property here. So my question is, and there was a log cabin on the property too, which was the my great-grandfather lived in it while they were building the farmhouse with his family, and then they used it for tax storage and equipment storage and that type of thing, in later years. But this may have been one of the tools that built the original farmhouse, the original log cabin, and the original barn, or it may have come later. I'll never know. And it's hard, unless there's that maker's mark again, you can look at it and try to figure out where it came from. It looks like WUILL company. Kind of looks like .com, but I highly doubt there would have been a .com there, right? So WUILL. If anybody knows what that is, let me know. But someday I'm going to put a handle on this. I'd like to make it look pretty, like one of these guys at some point. But, we'll get there. I got to figure out what to do with the rest of that rust and pitting. It was so badly pitted and so badly rusted. I probably should have left it alone, but you know how these things go. So I thought that was pretty cool. Number 3. This is not something I found on the farm, but I have had so many nice pocket knives, and I've lost a few of them because they've fallen out of my pocket. I like knives. They're cool, but you got to carry one every day. I mean, you should be carrying a knife every day, but especially if you work out on the land and you work with your hands, you need to be carrying a knife every day. You know what my go-to knife is for an everyday carry knife? This guy. It is a Husky, yes, from Lowe's or Home Depot or whomever, razor knife. So you open it up and you put one of those blades in there. Man, I'll tell you what, these things are worth their weight in gold. This is a nice unit. It's made out of aluminum, I think. I've had this thing for a few years now. It's been awesome. When it goes dull, I change a blade. If I do something I shouldn't be doing with it, I change the blade and I don't feel bad. I don't have to sharpen it. I have so many things that I have to sharpen and keep up on. I don't have to sharpen it, and I keep all of my nice knives nice and sharp and in where they live, and they're in good shape and they don't get lost out on the property. Milwaukee makes a nice one too if you're a black and red type of guy, right? But honestly, man, I love this Husky knife. I've had this thing everywhere. Is it the sexiest knife? No. Does it get the job done? Yeah. And for those of you, I'm looking at you, Tom. They call me a yuppie. Show me the type of yuppie that carries one of these, right? Aha. That's what I thought. I got to move the camera for the next one because this one definitely gives me the fizz. Quick pause here because I was just so excited about my ingenuity. I had an extra 1/4" 20 insert in my toolbox that was from another project. I've had it for going on 2 years now. And 1/4" 20 apparently is the same thread that's on these little camera adapters that go on tripods. So I was able to cut the head off of a bolt, stick that threaded insert into some pieces of wood I had laying around, use a clamp, stick the bolt without the head on it in there. I mean, I am that guy who has parts laying around just for an instance like this, and it's so freaking awesome. Anyway, back to the show. I just wanted to show you that you should never, ever, ever throw anything out because you never know when you might use it, right? Maybe it's just who I am, Maybe it's one of those things that would have been diagnosed a long time ago, but they didn't have that definition when I was a kid. You know what I mean? But I kind of go on deep dives, and I'm going to totally undo everything I said about not being a yuppie with carrying around, this guy as my EDC knife, right? But pencils are important. I haven't done it much recently because I've just been busy with farm stuff, but I do enjoy building furniture, and I've got a full wood shop, which works out really well. So, I kind of like this whole thing. But okay, I'm just going to say it. I like pencils. It's kind of like that kid that said I like turtles. You know what I mean? But pencils are cool, and you have to have a good pencil with a really good point on it if you want to do precise marking of wood when you're going to cut it and do joinery and that type of thing. So I set out to find the perfect pencil. These Blackwing pencils, which come in a very nice box, right? They're American made, and they're kind of expensive for pencils, but they're pretty sweet. They're awesome, right? They come in a box, and they are, I don't know what the lead is on these, let's just say, extra firm graphite pencils. So it's graphite. I don't know. It says they're crafted with California incense, cedar, and Japanese graphite. Oh gosh, Tom is never going to allow me to live this one down. Yuppie Pencils. And I got this German brass sharpener with this razor blade insert in it. Oh my gosh, this thing is like pencil heaven. So I feel like I shouldn't be showing that on camera. But you put that in there and you sharpen it, and these just beautiful chips come off, Look at that. Beautiful, huh? And you don't want to do it too hard, because if you want to get it to a razor point, if you do it too hard, it's not going to work. But man, it's beauty, isn't it? So that makes it nice and sharp. It works really well when you get a good piece of, oh gosh, I'm horrible at doing videos. When you get something really good, like a good piece of what, good YouTubers would find, not it's like paint stick that I've been using to mix up stain or mix up finish, but they'd get it like a real piece of wood. But that makes a really nice line for when you're marking, doing whatever. And the pencils feel good. So I keep these pencils. I always keep one over on my table saw fence. So I've got one handy. But that's a pretty sweet pencil. That's a Blackwing natural. Right? Come on, focus. Blackwing natural. Pretty cool. And then this is an M&R Mike and Romeo. These things never focus. I'm sorry. Come on, GoPro. M&R Mike and Romeo pencil sharpener. Brass with a nice razor insert in it. I think it's pretty sweet. That's what I use. It's one of the nicest things I have in my shop. And I'm not joking about this part. There is something to be said for being able to appreciate the little things in life. And I'm not actually joking around this time, but we take so much for granted, where we've got, phones and doodads and knives and EDC and chainsaws and all this heavy duty stuff. The pencil is a technology that we don't talk about much anymore because it's a pencil. It's been around for a long time. It is awesome that in 2024, somebody out there is putting as much respect and effort into pencil and a pencil sharpener as ever has been put into it. And it still is a precision tool. When you're working on wood or writing, if you like to write with a pencil, or if you're an artist, it's a precision tool, and that's pretty darn cool. So the Humble Pencil has helped me build some pretty cool furniture, helped many an author write a great book, and helped many an artist pencil a great picture. It's something we shouldn't take for granted. And this is one of the small pleasures, like a good cup of coffee or a good cup of tea, and a quality tool. I challenge you, go out and grab a pencil. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, but go get a good writing instrument and use it and see how you feel about it. It'll give you the fizz. You never know what kind of content you're going to get. It could be operating equipment. It could be an ode, a philosophical ode to the Humble Pencil. It could be chainsaw stuff. Who knows, right? This is kind of the life we live. We do a little bit of everything, especially when it's winter and it's too cold outside to go do something useful at the moment. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to please like and subscribe. The channel is starting to grow, which is pretty cool. So like and subscribe and check out our farm store at LaughlinHighlandsFarm.com, L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, Highlands with an S farm.com. Order some meat, live well, pray to God, pray for us, and have a great day. I'll be back at you soon with some content showing you the progress that we're making on the new silvopasture. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.